Love, it has been good to me this time around. Things were ever bound to change when it was found. Sugar never tasted sweeter on my lips. My heart is now intact and I can find no rest. This is love, yeah, love. Never known true love before. Seen so many counterfeits that left me on the floor. This is love, yeah, love. All will come to those who wait. Time it cannot know the bounds, and eras don't dictate.
Well, hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Xrad Round Up with me, Xander Gibb, from a very undisclosed location. I hope you're all doing good. On tonight's show, the very best and hot topics. I'll be getting on my soapbox just for a change and telling you how I feel about what's going on in these United States and all over the world. There'll be a little bit UK stuff in there too for you UK listeners. We've also, in the second part of the show, got my guest tonight is Christian Saucier, a Navy vet who has, his family have been on this show, his wife's been on, his mom's been on, and I've been on hiatus since he came out of jail, but we're gonna talk to him later on in the show to see what he has to say, what his views are since his incarceration. What else did I want to tell you? Getting old, the brain is crumbling tonight. I will get to say hello to all of you very soon when I get to look at the page, but I will be addressing your comments and I will be reading out your comments too, so be sure to tell us what you think and share. Be nice, be concise, no foreign languages and no mathematical equations, and we will be ashore. I am fine. I am convinced even. Don't know where that came from. Okay, so as I said, my guest today is Navy vet Christian Saucier. You'll be able to call in later as well to tell us what you think. And don't forget to tweet me. You can tweet me at Xander Gibb. We'll share that very soon in the live feed. So let's get right to it. We're going to look at some news in brief. Now, it's really funny how those who have been trashing the president have been having little accidents or problems lately. Hillary Clinton broke her toe this week after what was allegedly yet another night of drunken debauchery. Lying on the floor, she was observed to be shouting, "What happened? You're a drunken lush who mixes her meds and lies too much," passers-by replied. Hillary keeps tweaking the story, prompting her to cancel or delay lying sessions, interviews even with the British media. Before resurfacing on a BBC program this week. Clinton health scares, the details are a bit unclear, and as one host had called her out for missing an interview, her spokesman said initially that she twisted her ankle. More than likely she tripped even over her liar's handbook. Now, I thought it was a bit interesting. A lot of Americans were concerned this week that while they were in London, that Hillary Clinton was visiting, not Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton was visiting the British Prime Minister, Theresa May, and people were like, is he our ambassador now? You know, what is he doing? Blah, blah, blah. So people were concerned about the fact that he had gone along and kind of put himself in this ambassadorial role. It was pleasing to see that a lot of people were kind of really giving him some hassle about it. There were a lot of cigar comments, obviously most of them for me, but I do think it's kind of worrying that he is representing going in that role as if he's some kind of ambassador. I'm coming to the feed now. Hi to everybody on the live feed. Hi to Justin. Hi to Carla. Hi to Janie. Hi to Mel. Hi to Stella. It's good to see you too. Hi to Margaret. Welcome. It's great to see you. Hello to Benjamin. Yes, it is a show. Who else do we say hello to? Hello to everybody that's watching. Those of you that are not in the live feed, come and join us. Tell us what you think. Ask your questions. Make your comments. You are most welcome. Now, somebody else that had some problems this week, who had been over commentating with regards to the president, was Ed Sheeran, who blamed Donald Trump for the late release of his album in the United States and had a cycling accent, that was a bit Freudian, maybe it was a British accent, and basically the 26-year-old crooner was riding his bike when he was struck down and had broken his right arm, which many fear will put an end to his upcoming tour. So what a shame, not. No, I wasn't in London exacting revenge on behalf of those who have dissed Donald Trump. Now, the list is endless of these people that kind of talk trash about him. The Florida person this week who basically said she listened in on a phone call that the president had made to a grieving widow of one of our veterans who died out in Africa, in Niger. There were 4 people that died, but the media has only been focusing on one of those. And the accusation that was levied at the president was that he basically intimated that, it's a risky job, and so he knew what he was doing. Now, we all know our president says and does and tweets and, occasionally says things that are really kind of not appropriate. But I don't believe in this circumstance he would be that crass. And to do that would be rather silly. I do know for a fact that when a president is given this kind of task to perform, what he tends to do is to be given like a crib sheet, for want of a better word, or phrase even. And in that crib sheet, it says the person's name, what happened, who died, who they're speaking to. All of that information is in that sheet. So the accusation that he kept saying, "You're a man," and not calling the woman by her name, I really don't get that or believe it too. How much more are we going to take of the media just trying to diss everything that the president does? I'll be the first one to call him out when he gets it wrong, because I think that it's imperative to do so, but cut him a bit of slack. I think essentially, if he had done this, it would be crass, to say the least. But what I'm hoping will happen before the end of this week is that President Trump will release this audio. And there have been calls this week for President Trump to respond to Eminem, to respond to all the people that have dissed him. And this was my response on social media today. Lions lose no sleep over the opinions of sheep. And talking of sheep, no, I'm not going to talk about Hanoi Jane, but Chelsea Handler found out this week that there would not be another series of her show, How to Be a Polarizing Bitch. Handler, who was fired allegedly from her E! Show after sleeping with her boss, was relegated to Netflix. Now, I'm guessing either they got sick of her or she wouldn't put out. I mean, who are we kidding? When does she not put out? That drunken lush always puts out. But God, wrong teeth in. God is clearly pissed. So watch out, people like John Fugelsang and Anna Navarro and others. Now, I joke, of course. I don't speak for God. But I do kind of feel like it's about time for the tables to turn with regards to these people who are dissing the president. Because I'm all for dissing politicians if they've done something that is worthy of diss. But let's face it, it just seems lately if anything that he does is bad or wrong. And I'm under no illusion that he gets it wrong and he does things and says things that he shouldn't, because we all do, he's human. And to be honest, if I'd have been in his position and I'd been pushed this far by now, I would have said, bye-bye, this is too much for me. Stella says he doesn't have audio, but he had Kelly and several others in the room when he called her on speakerphone, and Kelly was on the press conference and told mainstream media what he did say. Justin says there was no statement from the widow, except yes, as she agreed with the rep's story. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous that he would call her to say that kind of thing. Nick says, hi Nick. She says, I sure hope there's no response to Eminem. That was a terrible freestyle by a modern day nobody. The president needs to stay classy. I would totally agree. Now here's the thing for me with regards to people like Kaepernick and Eminem. They get to a point where they're just so damn irrelevant that it becomes popular to just attack the president. Kim Kardashian is jumping on the bandwagon too, dissing the president. And like I said, it's okay to diss him, but at least have something to diss him for. He shouldn't respond to Eminem. He shouldn't respond to Colin Kaepernick, who interestingly is suing the NFL after all of this. Now let's face it, the guy was pissed in the first place because nobody wanted to give him a job, but now he's suing the NFL because he's saying that Donald Trump has made it so that he can't get a job. I wonder if Donald Trump was to blame for Hillary stubbing her toe. Hi to Michelle, welcome to the show. Let me know what you guys think about this. Obviously I was joking about God exacting revenge on those that have attacked the president, but I do think it's kind of like, I am a comedian, and it's imperative to have some fun with all of this. So it seems this week there was an altercation between Roseanne Barr and Rob Reiner, aka Meathead, in a bar in New York City. Now Barr is a fierce advocate of Donald Trump and his policies, and she challenged Reiner on his anti-Trump stance and constant Russia accusations. Now, aren't we fed up with Russia now? Aren't we sick of hearing about it? Aren't we tired of this rhetoric with regards to the fact that there was collusion? I mean, they proved this week there was collusion, but the thing is, the collusion was with Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. So go and see them. When are these people going to be brought to justice? When are Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and all of that administration going to be jailed for their failures? It's really funny. Every time I talk, these little smiley faces that are coming up on the screen, they kind of go into my mouth. I wish you could see what I mean from here. So it's very funny. I watched a documentary here last night with a guy called Matt Fry. I'm in the UK right now, if you didn't already know that. And Matt Fry basically went through this whole thing and said allegedly after everything so that he couldn't get sued, but basically had no more information than anyone else. But previously he'd done an interview with Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton had basically blamed everybody else for the fact that she'd lost, and it was all about collusion. But what about the fact that people didn't vote for her and they've lost confidence in her and they didn't want her as president of the United States? It was very simple. Clearly Donald Trump wasn't the most experienced politician in that race, but let's face it, when you stand Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump side by side, the United States was far safer with Donald Trump at the helm than it was Hillary Clinton, because she would have sold us down the river right away. Jamie says, the poor widow, that congressman is the trouble. I think a president should care enough to call the liberals never stop the divide. I agree. Good evening, Brian. Welcome. Alan D. Martin says, while I agree with most of what you're saying, you look too much like Michael Moore and Rosie O'Donnell's love child to be taken seriously. Well, if you don't like it, Alan, you have the right not to watch. Goodbye. Brian is talking about Russia. I think everybody is right now. I think, interestingly enough, there will come a time when people will stop talking about Russia, because let's face it, it's boring. If I hear once more that, Donald Trump colluded with the Russians, even in this documentary on the BBC Channel 4 last night, they were talking about the fact that Donald Trump had legitimate business dealings in Russia. Hi, Carla, welcome. He did a pageant over there and was doing some deals over there even before he ran for president. So if that's collusion, then every other businessman in the United States that has business dealings in Russia is colluding too. Hi, Steffi. I hope you're good over there in New York City. So I think that, when people talk about collusion, they really need to decide what collusion is and what form that it actually takes. Justin says, all this business, nothing wrong there. I just kind of wish they would shut the hell up, really, and focus on something interesting, like the fact that Maxine Waters has had more financial impropriety this week. But you don't see that in the mainstream media, do you, Wiggy Waters? Nick says, Alan, how petulant are you trying to be here? Do you have an argument against the ideas, or are you just sticking to judging someone by their looks? How ridiculous. I agree. Michael says, so what if Russia influenced our election? Look at how many governments overthrew and installed leaders that were loyal to us. Now, here's the interesting thing. There's no doubt that Russia were involved in the election and influencing people, and so were WikiLeaks. But let's face it, nothing that they said was not true. Nothing that they said was incorrect. So why are we bashing them for kind of finding out things that were being done by so-called politicians that were illegal? Surely these are things that we needed to know. Janie says, facts don't matter to these people. And she also says, I'm so cute. Thank you very much. My mother tells me the same thing very often. So another issue I want to mention today is freedom of speech groups. I've been protesting against the removal of an anti-racism classic, Call to Kill a Mockingbird, from a school curriculum in Mississippi. Now, the National Coalition Against Censorship, NCAC, and 6 other free speech organizations protested the decision by a school board in Biloxi to remove the 1960 Pulitzer Prize-winning novel from their required reading list in a letter to the school. Accurately understanding the past is crucial to understanding our society, said Abina Hutchful, NCAC's Youth Free Expression Program Associate Director, in the statement. There is arguably no better way for students to do this than by engaging with the rich story and themes found in Harper Lee's book, To Kill a Mockingbird. Now, the issue here is clearly the continued debate about the M-word, and I know it's something that needs to be removed from our vernacular, but to expect it to be removed completely from classics, like books and things like that, where this was kind of, appropriate at those times, is kind of concerning. I remember watching the remake of Roots. Now, I loved Roots the first time round, although I saw it on kind of when it being repeated, because I obviously am only 35 and it wasn't around when I was little. But they were even talking about taking out the M word in the repeat, the remake of Roots. I think that when you make something that's a period drama, or you write a book that's a period piece, I think that the language does need to be of that time. But I don't think anybody should be using the N-word nowadays. And if you're going to get rid of that, then let's get rid of all the rap songs that include the M-word. Or am I being racist by suggesting that? I think the important thing is that, I don't agree with Oprah on much, but I do agree with her on the fact that when she says it's imperative that we all stop using the M-word, not just certain members of the community. And as for taking it back, well, how can you say you're taking it back when your use of it encourages others to use it? What else can I see in the live feed? Yes, Carla says that I'm a cutie patootie. I knew that, and just book banning is happening now. Nick says the N-word existed, so it will exist in history. This is typical 2017-esque delusion, attempting to erase history. This will never happen. You cannot erase history. It will exist with or without acknowledgement. Now, here in the UK this week, it's been Black History Month, and 10 Downing Street, which is kind of like the equivalent of the White House, that's where the Prime Minister lives, ushered all these black kids in for photo shoots and all of this. And I pointed out quite rightly that if, we're looking at equality, when is there going to be a White History Month? Because the thing is that if we're continually going to harp on about what's gone before with regards to racism, how can we ever start to work together as a society if we're still apportioning blame? I'm white, but, as far as I know, nobody I know ever owned a slave. Nobody I know or associate with is racist. But still I'm tarred with the same brush, which apparently is a racist phrase too, so I really can't win as people because of the color of my skin. Now to counterbalance this, the black community get mad when, quite rightly so, when people generalize with regards to black people and crime. So how is it wrong for me to be able to want to turn around and say, don't use the term white supremacist because I'm white and I'm not a white supremacist. I'm not even very supreme. So it is, there is a lot to be said about vernacular, and it is concerning. But Pam says, let's celebrate White History Month. Yes, I agree. Stellar says, or a wet white entertainment television, whatever that might be. Enlighten us. Tell us, Stella. So as you probably know, I would be one of the first to comment if I disagreed with the president. But I'm really fed up with the Dems making up all of this fake news. Now, we've already talked about the fact that Representative Frida, whose name escapes me, Frida Wilson, who frankly looks like she could be Wiggy Waters' sister, was the one that kind of brought all of this out this week with regards to what the president is supposed to say. And, it's clear that this is a total fabrication. And I want to know why we only know the name of one soldier that died that day. Surely the sacrifice they gave was just as important. But I think race is an issue in this too. And the concern for me is that when we're allowing race to constantly be an issue, it continues to be so. So what do you think about it? Was this a racial issue? Was this another opportunity to call Donald Trump a racist? Because I really don't think he is. I'm not responsible for what my father did, and neither is he. And if his father had issues with tenants that happened to be black, surely that's between him and his father, and not between between Donald Trump and the rest of the world. It's really ridiculous, as far as I'm concerned. Get out of the way. Stella says they have the BET Black Entertainment Television. Absolutely, I get that. I like to watch that actually. I like watching old episodes of Soul Train. Nick says Europe and America were advanced by white people. The governments, the civilizations, the standard of living. This cannot be erased. Absolutely. Alan, who says I look like the love child of Roseanne and whoever else, he says, hey, your viewership is expanding. You got a heckler. That's saying something. Honey, I get hecklers all the time. I can deal with it. Pam says, Freaky Frida looks like a mad Maxine Waters. Careful, people will say you're racist. Nick says it's opportunistic at its prime. The people who continue to keep racism alive are unfortunately POC opportunists. Is toxic and unrealistic. And Stella says, I'm beautiful. I know, my mom tells me every day. I think ultimately, to kind of bring this matter to a close, I actually want other people to start speaking out about what happened that day in that car, and that was on speakerphone. And I'm just wondering why there is this continuum. Now I want to tell you one more thing. I want to have a moan actually. I am sick to death of being on the front line. I'm sick to death of being on the front line in social media every day, pointing out the bad, the wrong, the nasty, the unfair, the criticisms regarding the president. And I feel like you get very little backup from other conservatives. Now, I'm not saying, woe is me and that I want you to feel sorry for me, because I don't. But it's important that we all get out there on social media and challenge the fake news that is out there, the commentary that is not true. And the thing is, at the end of the day, if we don't do that, and you leave that just to people like me and Joe Messina, etc., it becomes very tiring. I mean, I enjoyed my rest. It was great to have some time off, although I had to for obvious reasons. My sex change in a Swiss clinic. I'm joking. But now I come back and I'm back in the kind of the social media spotlight, as it were, it's very, very hard. And I think we need to all start getting out there, those of us that use social media, and challenging these misconceptions and things that are incorrect. Those of you that use it, and I know some of you do. Where are we? Dale Kane says it's usually the one who's cries racism that's the racist. I agree. Pam Miller says she loves BAT. Her favorite Maida is on here. I'm not sure what that means. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. Alan says I do have nice hair. Thank you very much. And unlike Maxine Waters, mine is not a wig. What else? Nick says I have nice hair. Thank you. All the compliments are wonderful for my ego. Carla says General Kelly's remarks were awesome. Janie says I need glasses. I'm too vain to get them. Fake news stories liberals gobbled up this week. Days of fake news and hoaxes that have spread thanks to the internet, wrongly implying that a prosecutional body is beginning to build a case. More likely, it seemed like a moment liberals were just desperately hungry to see this country fall apart. Absolutely. Now, one thing that concerned me this week is the guy's name escapes me, the one that's investigating Trump and Russia connection, Robert Mueller. Robert Mueller was actually active in the FBI when Hillary Clinton was let off the hook. So I want to ask you guys out there, how appropriate is it that Robert Mueller is heading up this investigation, and how can he call himself impartial? It's rather concerning to me. Pam Miller says, you're right about backup. Where's Michelle Malkin, Tony Lauren, Laura Ingraham? Laura Ingram, I never know how to pronounce her name. Yes, absolutely right. They're far too busy enjoying the perks that come from becoming a celebrity from this. And no matter how big I get, I don't mean that way. I mean kind of like on the screen and in the media. I hope I never become that way, because I won't forget my roots and I won't forget why I started and continue to do this. I'm not here to be popular. I'm actually here to make a difference. Oh, BET has Medea. I love Medea. Yes, as in Tyler Perry. Absolutely. Janie says, I have to, my roast is ready. Keep rocking it. We'll save some for us. And Dale says, Comey and Miller, I thought that said Buddhists, you see, this is why I need to get glasses, are buddies. Yeah, so exactly, why is this okay? Why is this acceptable? So I'm going to do the intro for my guest, and then I'm going to call them up and bring them on. So, I am out of breath all that talking. So last year I read about a young Navy vet who'd been jailed for mishandling classified information, which boiled down to taking 6 selfies on a very old submarine. Now the pics were never used, never disseminated, and even as President Trump stated, anyone who wanted pictures of such an old sub, and I don't mean Hillary Clinton, already had them. But speaking of Hillary Clinton, she had 100+ incidents of mishandling classified intel that we know of. Now, Chris had 6 and got 1 year in jail, 100 hours of community service, ankle monitoring for a period after incarceration. Now, I became involved with the campaign after a startling realization that this 2-tier justice system in the United States could be handed down to any of us, you, me, our families, anybody in the United States. Now, he and his family have suffered a loss as a result of this. He lost all of his medical coverage and his benefits, and I believe his pension, but we'll ask him some more about that. Now, meanwhile, Hillary runs for the highest office in the land, loses, writes a book to bitch about it, gets strong, breaks a foot, still hobbles around free, and unpunished for the latest in a line of criminal acts. So I'm just going to try and bring... Where are we? It does help if I have this ready. See, this is why I need an assistant. Who wants to become the assistant on this show? You could even do it virtually. We will get there. Oh yes, we will. So, I'm hoping joining me any moment will be Christian Saucier, who is going to be joining us live from an undisclosed location. Are you there, Chris?
Hi, yes, how's it going?
It is going good. Welcome to the show. You're live on the Xrad Round Up. It's great to get to speak to you. Now, I don't know how much you heard about the intro, but I just kind of went through a few of the things that happened to you prior to your incarceration. But I want to get some of the facts straight, because I know that there are some people out there that kind of are a little bit confused. Now, in fairness, we wouldn't even know your name today if you'd been handed out the same punishment as your peers, would we?
No, that's true. Yeah, first of all, let me thank you guys for having me on your show, and for covering my story so well. Unfortunately, you're absolutely right. If they handled my case the same as other people, going through the same situation, nobody would have even known who I was.
Right.
For that matter, the fake news media didn't really cover my case because they didn't want to point out the clear double standard that was happening between myself, the elites of our country, and so it's unfortunate, but luckily for me, there was people like you and a few others who wanted to report really what was going on. And, it's shameful, and I just read the other day, sorry to kind of go off on a tangent here, but I just read the other day that Jim Comey, had already prepared a statement basically exonerating Hillary Clinton before he even completed the investigation. So it just shows, that there was two different paths for the way that, mishandling classified information was dealt with in this country. Obviously, if you were one of the top brass or the top elite of America, you get treated with kid gloves compared to somebody like me who, for a minor security infraction, just got the full weight of the Department of Justice thrust upon them.
Right, and it's interesting because obviously before I ever get involved in a case, I kind of do a bit of research about it. Because like most people, I thought, come on, surely there must be something more to do with this than 6 selfies on a cell phone that were never disseminated. And on the one hand, you took 6 selfies. I'm sure you admit that was a silly thing to do. But the punishment did not fit the crime when some of your colleagues were given a demotion and a pay decrease, etc., etc. Now, you had did you have 6 counts of mishandling classified information?
No, they put it all in as 1 count. So what I got was a 1 count of unlawful retention of national defense information, which basically just means that I possess, classified information on an unsecured device, which, is exactly what Hillary Clinton did.
Right.
I had, because I had a security clearance, so I was allowed to possess classified material.
Right.
I just had it on an unsecured device, my cell phone, the pictures. So, and I don't want to seem like I'm trying to minimize what it is. Yeah, I made a mistake. I was 22 years old. And it wasn't done with nefarious intentions. I did what a lot of other people do in the military, and I was extremely proud of my job. And I took pictures of where I worked, because I wanted to be able to look back and say, look, this is what I did. How awesome is it to be on a fast attack nuclear-powered submarine? At being 19, 20 years old and being in charge of, operating a nuclear power plant on a fast attack submarine, it's pretty cool, And,
right.
I was 22 years old at the time. If I could go back and do it again, I wouldn't do it again.
No.
But at 31 years old, I was in prison for something I did when I was 22,
Right.
And you're absolutely right. The punishment didn't fit the crime. I made a mistake. 2 other guys on the same ship as me that did the same job as me at the same time took pictures in the same exact area on their cell phones, and they were given a couple $100 fine, and they were allowed to continue on with their Navy career because the Navy recognized it for what it was, an innocent mistake. They weren't taking the pictures of a 40-year-old submarine to sell to somebody or anything like that. They recognized that it was, hey, look, these guys were proud of their job. They made a misguided attempt to capture the memories, and they were allowed to continue on. And both of them are still in the Navy. One of them even made officer. So
wow.
It's a very clear delineation with how the Navy felt about it. And in this case, first of all, it should have never went past it.
No.
It should have been handled within the Navy. If they truly wanted to send me to prison because they felt that it was such an egregious violation that I committed, they would have been able to court-martial me because I was still active in the military.
Right.
Until I went to prison, and that's when they kicked me out. So, they didn't court-martial me. They wanted to make a national spectacle of it. They couldn't do that in a court-martial setting.
No.
So they took me to a federal court where they could make it a big thing and say, look at this guy. The Obama administration is hard on people that mishandle classified information.
Right.
Unless, of course, your name's Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Or, David Petraeus. And, here we go. And that's really what it came down to. And it's a better example to make of somebody than of me. Because, how many people really know a lot about submarines? It's a very small community. So it was very easy for them to paint me as this, guy in the shadows doing stuff that I shouldn't be doing. When in fact, it really wasn't,
I want to talk a little bit, Chris, about the deeper cost of this all for you, because while you were in prison, obviously there were all these things, these campaigns going on outside. The attempts to get you released, the attempts to get you pardoned, but there was an even bigger cost to all of this for you because you lost your. And correct me, I'm just kind of going on the facts that I have. You lost your pension, you lost your medical benefits, you lost all of your benefits. You lost a year of seeing your beautiful daughter grow up. And, I've met your family, I've spent time with your family, and, I actually consider them to be my friends now. And so you lost so much more than just 1 year of your freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. I served my country, and no matter what they put on paper, they won't change the way I feel.
No.
I served my country for 11 years. I'm proud of what I did. I did 2 tours to the Middle East, and I did it because I wanted to serve this country, not for the money. We don't make a lot of money.
No.
It's not for the glory. Being on a submarine is not a very glorious job. But I did it because I really felt like I was making a difference and doing some good. And unfortunately, yeah, you're absolutely right. I lost my disability benefits. They came to me. Now I'm not only a felon, but I have it other than honorable discharge, so I lost all my VA disability. I was 7% disabled from service-related injuries. I don't get any treatment at the VA anymore. I lost my GI Bill. I lost all the benefits of being a veteran, especially a veteran of foreign wars. And not only that, but I'm a felon. And the worst part about it is, don't get me wrong, being locked in a cage in prison, it wasn't fun. It wasn't how I pictured spending my retirement in mission to save from the military. But you're absolutely right. Being away from my family, that was the worst part. And watching as my wife struggled, fought to try to get any kind of assistance, food stamps, had to go on welfare, and our vehicles got repossessed, and the house went into foreclosure, and I couldn't do anything about it because I was locked in the cage. And it's very upsetting because here I am in prison, and I'm watching on TV the election. That's all I have. I'm watching Hillary Clinton get up there and say, yeah, you know what, after she lied, finally got caught and said, okay, yeah, I broke the law, but get over it, it's no big deal. And I'm saying, well, it is a big deal.
It is.
They truly felt that it's that big of a deal, that you'd be in prison too. But, here you sit running, not just getting away scot-free, but running for president of the United States.
The highest office in the land.
It's very upsetting. And that's the truly upsetting part is that, my family and I, we're proud Americans. Obviously serve their country. And this is how our government, the Department of Justice, treats us. Versus somebody like Hillary Clinton, who, there's just been all this stuff that's been coming out about her, selling
uranium.
Basically uranium to the Russians and selling out her own country for money. Patty Clinton Foundation. And it's just disgusting. Somebody like that gets the benefit of the doubt, but somebody like me just gets the book thrown at him. And that's truly the thing that, it's the way I look at it is this, right? I wrote the law, I made a mistake. But it wasn't where I was doing it for the wrong reasons.
Right.
It wasn't hurting anybody. But I got punished. I spent a year in federal prison, and people like that are saying, they say, well, they made a mistake, get over it. They didn't really hurt anybody, and they
Wow.
give the benefit of the doubt.
Right. So I want to ask you, we talked about the highest office in the land. Obviously, I support Donald Trump and I have a lot of respect for the guy. But one of the areas I've been vocal on is about the way that he treated you. Now, on the campaign trail, he spoke about you several times. He was quite vocal about the fact that, Hillary was treated differently to you, and that we do have this two-tier justice system, and anybody that wanted the pictures already had them because it was a 40-year-old sub. And then he gets the job, he gets into office, and I am very disappointed that he didn't give you a pardon or give you a any kind of release. And in the same breath, before Barry Obama leaves office, he frees Chelsea, I keep wanting to say Clinton, Chelsea
Manning, yeah.
Manning.
Yeah.
And this woman, this person, shall we say, because I'm not anti-trans, but it infuriates me that this person was freed, and people died because of her. No one died because of you. How does it make you feel with regards to the way that the Donald treated you, and the fact that Chelsea Manning was given this compassionate release, as it were?
Well, first of all, it's Obama that did that. So the same Department of Justice led by him that
Right.
persecuted me and let his cronies off. So I wasn't surprised that he did something like that in his final times as president. But yeah, definitely President Trump. My family and I are very vocal supporters of him, and it was an emotional roller coaster being in prison, and getting to call my wife when I could, and she said, saying, oh, you were mentioned by him, and
Right.
hey, they're really looking at pardoning you, and then getting hyped up that, well, maybe I won't get a pardon, but I'll get released from prison a little early to be back home with my family and kind of pick up the pieces, and and waiting, and then nothing happens, and then finally I get out of prison and think, well, maybe that's what he was waiting for, to basically say, look, he served his sentence, he's done his debt to paid his debt to society.
Right.
Let's make him whole again by pardoning him and making him not a felon. But it's been kind of lost, and then I feel the way that you do. I feel kind of let down by it, because I think it would have been a very easy thing for him to do, and it would have set a very clear example that there's no double standard of justice in this country. Obviously, it's not going to give me back the time I lost to my family, or the money that we lost, or all that's been done to us. But it would definitely say, hey, look, what happened was wrong, and this guy doesn't deserve to be punished for the rest of his life. Because make no mistake, being a felon and having an other than honorable discharge definitely sets you at a disadvantage in America, where trying to find a job, trying to move on with life, you lose a lot of civil liberties, and by doing that, he would definitely have helped me.
Right.
I don't know why he's made the choice, because I was still in prison when he pardoned Sheriff Joe Arpaio.
Right.
And I thought, okay, well, maybe this is the first of many. Maybe he's gonna look at my case, and because he had mentioned with Sean Hannity after winning the presidency that he was looking at my case, and I said, wow, maybe this is something to be mentioned by him. And I feel like he kind of used us, or my case, on the campaign trail to basically get people to say, wow, wait a second, Hillary Clinton did break the law, because this guy's sitting in prison for doing
Right.
100th of what she did. But then he kind of forgot about us, and it's kind of upsetting.
I actually do feel that you were whilst I want to preface this, because liberals out there will be saying Xander Gibb doesn't like Donald Trump anymore. I totally support the president, and I think it's important to not be a single issue supporter, but I do feel that your case was used on the campaign trail, and you actually got nothing for it. Now I know they let you out a little bit early. You came out a little bit less than a year after doing a little bit less than a year, but you've got a curfew, and you've got an ankle monitor, and all of these things. How do these things further impede on your freedom?
Well, the first month that I got out, I wasn't allowed to leave home at all. So,
Wow.
I could obviously do online job applications, but I really couldn't go out and find a job or anything. So, that's difficult. Coming home, and it was great. It was kind of bittersweet. I got to be with my family again finally. But, I was watching as everything was slipping away and debt collectors are calling. I can't do anything to remedy the situation because I'm stuck at home, and then I have 6 more months of house arrest where I can go out during the day, but I still have an ankle monitor, and then I have 3 years of probation where I can't leave, to try and find work somewhere else if I out of the state if I wanted to. So it's very limited. And I don't want people out there to think, you're absolutely right. The liberals are going to pick up on it and say, oh, he doesn't like something. Well, that's
right.
I support the president. I think that I'm very grateful that he won and not Hillary Clinton because, God only knows where this country would be if she was president. And, I just think, maybe he needs a reminding of something, a promise that he made on the campaign trail that he was going to look into it and that he was going to correct the wrong that happened to my family.
I mean, in fairness, Chris, I think that, people like myself and others, Andrea Kay, who is in the live feed right now, who I believe has interviewed you, and, she's had your wife on, and people like Joe Messina, we've all been continuing to kind of remind the president of, I know we didn't out and out promise, but I kind of think that that's what was kind of intonated. So some of us are still reminding the president that was the case, and that because there is still a case out there to pardon you, which will give you back your benefits. Am I right?
Well, no, if they pardon me, even if he pardons me, I still would have to fight to get my military benefits back.
What?
Kind of 2 separate things. So pardoning would make me not a felon. They were obviously giving a wage stand on when I went and argued Veterans Affairs to give me that one. I was just hey, look, what happened to me was a little overkill, and the federal government obviously recognizes it. But I'd still have to fight to get my disability back. I'd still have to fight to get my status as a veteran back. But like I said, it would definitely set me in the right direction. It would give me back the right to vote. I spent 11 years in the military defending, people in this country's right to vote and right to carry guns and right to, run for public office.
And this is how they thank you.
I can't do.
And this is how they thank you. I was just going to say, what all they've done to you, when are they going to come and tattoo criminal on your forehead? Because, that's the only thing that they haven't done. Now, I want to talk about the financial aspect of this, and I'm sorry to bring this up, but I think it's imperative because you've lost everything. You've lost your house, you've lost your cars, you've lost so many things financially. But there is a way out there for people to help you. I'm actually sharing the link right now, and we don't often ask for people to do this kind of thing. But I would be grateful if you can spare something out there, if you can help at all. Click on the link that I sent you, and you can give a donation to Chris and his family to help them to kind of get through this time. But tell people about other ways that they can help you aside of financially, Chris.
Yeah, well, thank you. Everybody out there who feels obliged to donate or to help us out with the Help Chris Saucier page. But I mean, what's most important to us is raising awareness. I think this case is my case has kind of been pushed to the sidelines, with the exception of a few people like yourself that are actually reporting what's going on. It was a big thing during the election because it was so convenient for people to mention it. But after that was over, I kind of got forgotten. So what's most important is people out there, can go to the webpage that's on there, and there's a button they can click to sign a petition and to raise awareness to try to get President Trump to review my case again and look it over. So, obviously, if anybody out there is listening that knows President Trump, by all means tell him. But if not, we can sign the petition, and hopefully we can get enough people, we can send that up to him, and, it'll raise enough awareness that you won't be able to ignore it anymore. Because, I know he's got a lot of other stuff going on, and there's a lot of people pushing in different directions, and then quite possibly that's the reason why it hasn't been done yet, or, we haven't been contacted, or anything's been done as far as that goes. But, maybe if you raise enough awareness, it'll reach them, and that's
absolutely.
Really if your listeners, have a minute that could really help us,
Totally. We just shared the link to the helpchrissaucier.com website. You can actually do that. you can actually click on that, and there are some donation links on there as well. And there's also links. There are some videos, and there are also links to petitions that are floating around. Now, it's interesting to me, Chris, because people that know me will tell you that I can be a little bit bitter, but you don't come across as being kind of really bitter about this towards the president or towards the United States, and you don't regret your service at all. And because I would still be furious, and I would hate everybody personally, but you don't come across that way.
Oh, well, my wife is sometimes do that, but really what it is, it's easy to be angry and upset about everything that's happened.
Right.
It's much harder to be able to sit down and really look at yourself and say, you know what, things happen for a reason, and, unfortunately this happened to my family, and I wish that my family never had to go through it. But, if what happened to me raised awareness to some extent, make sure that Hillary Clinton was president, then and it helped change some people's minds when they were going to voting booths, then maybe that's what my purpose was. But,
Right.
really the bigger thing is there's positive rebounds in everything, and in prison I have a lot of time, and I would sit down and I make myself a list every day of the things that I was happy, that I was grateful for, and one of them is my family, Sadie and my daughter Cassandra. They really gave me the strength to make it through the tough times, and that's really what's important. I don't get me wrong, prison was no cakewalk, and having my life destroyed was not fun, but I'm not going to allow myself to get upset about it. I think that there's good to be had from this, and it made me a stronger person, and I'm not bitter. I'm still proud to be American. I'm still proud of my service. If I could do it again, I would go back and do it all over again. I was planning on doing 20 years and then making it to retirement because I love this country.
Wow.
And nothing will ever change that.
And I really do salute you for that, and I'm not being flippant, but I really do thank you for your service, because it's actually people like you that give us those freedoms that we kind of rely upon every day and forget why we have those freedoms. Now I want to touch on this a little bit. And now I don't know how much public knowledge this is about this, but there's a book in the offing, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I mean, I wrote a book, and it's not going to be, what I guess, a lot of people think would be something where I'm really upset about everything and stuff like that. It's more about overcoming it, about finding the positive and the negative, and
right.
Making it through a tough time. So yeah, I've written a book. It's in the editing process now, and hopefully it'll be out soon. And I think, it'll give people, because a lot of people didn't get very much of my story in the media. The fake news kind of reported it as one thing, that they got their information from the prosecutors, and they spread a story of, possible espionage, but that was never the case.
No.
That was disproven. But so a lot of people don't really know the whole backstory of it, and it's not something that you can really go into on a radio show real quick. But so I think that this book is nothing. It's not an epic novel or anything, but it'll give people that background, understand kind of what happened. And I think more people will look at it and say, "Wow, holy smokes, this is insane. What happened to this guy?" I mean, reading about me in the papers, you'd think it was like some Clive Cussler novel, but
right.
It really wasn't,
It as well, it's interesting because, from the point of view of being a commentator and a presenter, there, one of your other champions is in the live feed right now, Julio Rivera. That was actually something that he put out there that really made me aware of your story in the first place. But we still, to get the real story, we kind of had to go to your family, because what was in the media was just very kind of sketchy. There wasn't enough information, and so obviously we had to go to, initially to your mom and also to Sadie to find out exactly what has gone on. But how much of a role do you feel the media played in the fact that you ended up doing your full sentence?
Well, I think the media, like I said, they covered my case as much as it would give them, to their benefit, and unfortunately that's the way it worked, with a few exceptions like Fox News and people like yourself that, run your own shows, that you were not afraid to report the truth, not afraid to, say what's really going on, not just kind of toe the line. I think what happened was, my case was big, like I said, during the election, and then after that, people just kind of forgot about it because there were so many other things going on. And, in the media, once again, they really didn't care, and, mainstream media. And so, it's unfortunate, I tried to get out there and, hear my story, hear what happened, and hopefully, write to their conscience or something.
Right.
That's not right. But, yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate what happened, and it's unfortunate the coverage that it received, because I think it was a much bigger deal than it really was, was reported as.
Right, because I alluded to this in the preamble to bringing you on, and that's that this could actually happen to any of us. This could happen to any American, and I am guessing that before this happened to you, you had total faith in the American judiciary, right?
Oh, absolutely. I never thought something like this could happen. I mean, even after the investigation began and we first sat down and talked, I said, you got to be kidding me. And I thought, never will go to something. I never in my life, even when I tried to get a lawyer, because I didn't get a lawyer, I thought, no way.
No.
They're going to realize they're going to change, and we're going to move on, and maybe I'll get fined or whatever, but I'm going to move on. And even when I got a lawyer, my lawyer said, no way, you're never going to get prison. Saying that they're not even going to prosecute you. And then, years later, lo and behold, I do put a prison. But, it's just, that's the truly scary part. I think that's the part that people really need to understand, is that if they can do this to me, somebody who
they can do it to anybody.
Military record, and have a good, and I'm not a bad person, everybody thinks I'm not a bad person. I'm really not,
No.
And I'm a proud American. My family's patriotic. My family served in the military in World War II. I mean, if they can do this to a family like mine, they can do it to anybody. And that's what's truly upsetting. Like I said,
right.
That somebody like me, an honest, hardworking American, taxpayer, giving their life to their country, just gets thrown under the bus, and it's overlooked by everybody. Whereas somebody like Hillary Clinton and John Podesta and Hugh Aberdeen, and Anthony Weiner,
right.
They can just go out and break the law like, it's nobody's business, and nothing happens. Nobody holds them accountable. And even with Anthony Weiner, until it's too late, and he's molested a 16-year-old girl, and then they give him a slap on the wrist with 21 months in prison. I mean,
right.
I was in prison with guys doing more time than that for tax evasion. I mean, it's
right.
just disgusting.
But
that's the way it works.
Absolutely, and let's hope they do bring these people to justice, the ones that you said, and others. But we are at the end of our time together. Chris, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for your service. Give our love to your beautiful family, and tell people before you go where they can find out more about what you're doing. Okay, so my website's www.helpchrissaucier.com. That's Chris with a K, so help, KRISSAUCIER.com. And, on there's the links that we talked about. But, right.
Thank you for having me on your show, and thank you to your listeners for their support, and, and for your continued, support of following my story. Absolutely. You're so welcome, Chris. Wishing you every luck, and we'll have you back when you're putting the book out there, and we'll help you to promote that too. And don't forget to put that on your to-buy list, guys, when it comes out. Thank you so much, Chris. You take care. You too. Bye-bye. Thanks a lot. Take care. That was Navy vet Christian Saucier. Make sure you go and check out his website. We are at the end of our time together. Thanks for everyone who's made this today's show possible. Thanks to Chris Saucier. Thanks to everybody in the live feed. Too many to name. Please share this after the show or before you go. We will be back next week with another episode. Thanks for sharing. I love you all.
It has been good to me this time around. Things were the to change when it was